Yeah, Lorna can't make it. Okay. Hello, we're alive. Thank you very much. Welcome to the November 20th meeting of the Northborough Historic District Commission. My name is Bob Light, Chair. And I'd like to give the meeting notice first. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to the extending certain COVID-19 measures, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. The order allows the Historic District Commission to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. All members of the Historic District Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. This meeting will not feature public comment. Each vote taken this evening will be conducted via roll call vote. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Brian Smith,
Yes.
Leslie Harrison,
Yes.
Brian Swanson. Brian, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, yes.
Okay. And Amanda Millette.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and I'm Bob Light, and I'm here. Okay. So the first order of business is the prior meeting minutes, which I had sent to everyone. I had some corrections which I've made and sent out. So are there any other changes, or can we go ahead and approve the minutes? Hearing no changes, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of October October 16th?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Okay, and someone's joining us right now. Half screen. Oh, hi, Millie. And so, Millie, are you here? Millie's here. You're on mute.
Yes.
Okay, so we're voting on the minutes, approving the minutes of October 16th. Brian Smith,
Yes.
Brian Swanson,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
and Millie.
Yes.
Millie, I don't think you were there, so you're going to abstain?
Yes.
You voting with the tail, Amanda? Everybody raised their tails of their cat.
Oh.
tail.
Amanda, you're on mute. Okay, so the minutes pass, and I vote yes. So the minutes pass. First order of business is old business, and on the agenda, we have the Trinity Church Community Preservation Act funding for their application for improvements to the Trinity Church, and we were going to vote on a letter of approval. So since that time, just to give you some background, I sent everyone in the commission the application that was submitted to the CPC on November 1st, I believe. And I also sent an updated Exhibit A that went with the application. I drafted a letter of approval for us to approve the to suggest the funding for the project. We had discussed this at the last meeting, and we had members of the Trinity Church give a presentation. So that's the background. Since then, there were some comments and suggestions from some commission members, Tom Reardon and Leslie, which I forwarded to the Trinity Church and asked them to comment on them and address those issues and get back to me by today so that we could vote on the letter. They got back to me today with some very good comments as to how they were going to address those comments. But then they also decided to withdraw the application. So obviously there's no need for us to vote on sending a letter of support. Their comment basically was that they are looking at more time for planning and investigation of options for the renovations and renewal of the church. So they asked me to keep the letter as a draft for the next time that they submit an application for funding, whether it be CPA or some other. So then we can therefore move on. There's no need for us to vote on the letter. Any questions or comments on that? Okay. So we wish them well with a revised application. The Howard Street National Register status update. I actually did reach out to Lisa Mousoff. I think that's how you pronounce it. And she did get back to me, and she does apologize. It's been painfully long, and she says that she has at least a good solid week of work left to do on that. She's got other priorities. She apologizes, but she's going to get to it. Obviously she's been funded up to this point, and there's still obviously a balance due. So she's promises me that she will get to it. So at this point, I think she also even offered to return the money and have us go elsewhere. But at this point, to try to bring someone else on board, that doesn't make any sense. So I think we'll go with it. Hopefully she'll be able to get to it within a month or so and get it completed. We did hear back, Leslie might want to comment on the Warp Cemetery sign that Andy did get back to us on.
He said he was going out that weekend to flip them. But I don't know if he did. And I honestly don't remember. Did they all go to the same direction? Like, I don't remember.
I have a picture, so
Yeah, so we'd have to
I'll have to
compare
go back
see.
there and check to see. And I can't remember either, but I believe it was bowed to the right.
I think most of them were bowed to the right. At least the one at Howard's the one at the First Parish, the historical one.
So if I go back there and they're bowed to the left, I know he switched them.
Right.
They're completely straight. I know it worked.
Yeah, it's not going to work that fast. I think
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that.
But interesting. I was in the public garden in Boston recently, and their signs look an awful lot like ours. Right, and they're not.
Right.
I was like, I wonder if theirs are warped. They did not appear to be warped.
They're not warped?
Not the one on the public garden. I only saw two. I didn't go the whole look at every sign, but I saw two signs and said, "Oh, let me check them out."
That's interesting. Okay. All right. So, and then moving along, I have nothing new to report on the Lyman Street Farm Community sign. Again, we're at the mercy of the state on putting that up, but I did want to keep it on the agenda so we can keep reminding ourselves. The Legacy Tree Program. We actually had a tour of White Cliffs. I was asked to attend with the select board, so it was very interesting tour through White Cliffs. And at that time, I was able to measure the circumference of the legacy tree, and it's actually a little over 20 feet in circumference, which is a hefty tree.
Wow, that's remarkable.
And, that was a rough measurement that I did with a rope and a slide rule, but anyway, it does put it into a category of one of the largest beech trees in the state.
A rope and a slide rule? I assume you mean a rope.
No,
and a tape measure.
I was joking about the slide rule, but I had a rope and a tape measure, and I was able to measure it. So now what's left to be done is I have to put together the application online. I still need to look at that. There was no major rush on that because I think they were not accepting applications until next year anyway, but I'd like to get it done this year.
For the record, you said 20 feet?
20 feet, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big tree, which isn't the largest circumference I've seen for beech trees. I looked at the list, but with the size, with the height, the breadth of the tree and the circumference, it could put us into the category of being a champion tree. Champion tree would be the one tree in the state that's the largest of that category.
Pretty cool.
Okay. All right, moving along to committee representation. Start with CPC, Leslie.
Yeah, we've reviewed all the applications did the first pass. We meet the first Thursday of the month. So we met on November 7th. And we've got another meeting coming up on December 5th, it should be, just to confirm. Yeah, on December 5th. So we did the first pass. The housing folks were there to present theirs and answer questions, but nobody else was there, which was fine. It doesn't need to be. So we made good progress, and then we'll go through the next round on December 5th. And having a big application get withdrawn makes things easier, certainly, in terms of decision making. There was a discussion about the Revolution 250 program and whether it was about the Civil War memorial. So there were questions about that. I don't know if you watched the recording, Bob, or
No,
we didn't record it. Okay, so it didn't get recorded because it wasn't posted as such.
that's right. In fact, I checked with Lori to see if I missed anything because I noticed that.
We started to record it, but Andy Dowd is on the committee, and he said, you know what, to be safe, it shouldn't be because it wasn't advertised as such. So we turned off the recording and did not upload it. But there were concerns about, number one, isn't there already a Civil War memorial in town? And what was used as an example was the Minuteman, not Revolutionary War. Sorry, not Civil War.
War.
So there was a discussion about the Steven Spielberg aspect of the memorial. And then there was a question about, creating new things as opposed to, and the whole issue of, the application even included examples of other.
Yeah, there are a lot of examples of.
Yeah, and we went through.
There is a creation thing, but then there's also the fact that there's precedent to having
Right.
them.
And it was impressive to have that it was already in the application, which was great. And also we said, well, what about signs, like these historical markers that we put up?
Yeah, and the argument for the historical marker also, when we went through this with the aqueduct sign, was that it's not a create to have a new marker because the marker is tied to a
play, right?
Which is already there. So in a way, it's a renovation of that structure. So it is it is a debate. I think it's kind of questionable either way on the monument, but there is precedent for new monuments.
Yeah, and that was great that was already included. So that was the discussion.
Right.
In fact, we'll meet again on December 5th and move forward.
Right. While you're on the subject, I got an email inquiry from the Shrewsbury Historical Commission, and they're looking at CPC funds out of their pot for historical signs. And the same question was asked about whether this is a create or whether it's renovation. So I basically gave them the argument that we used and told them to look up, because there is a lot of historical markers that have been funded by CPC throughout the state.
Right.
Okay. I have to circle back. Let's finish the committee representation. And then I missed the subject early on, so we'll go back to that.
So so we talked about White Cliffs also, and talked about the removal of the, so because the application is to approve the study for taking down the additions and all that. So there was all that kind of conversation as well, and understanding and talking about preservation restriction and the fact that those has to be returned to being historically accurate. So I suggested they add that. That wasn't in the application, that it would be required to get a preservation restriction on it would be to make it historically accurate. We couldn't get, so they were talking about justifications for taking the additions off, and most of it in the application had to do with sealing it up, right? Because a lot of the infiltration, a lot of the contamination is in those additions, and once they remove the additions, the mold, a lot of those aspects will be taken care of. But the other issue is that in order to get a preservation restriction on it, those have to come off anyway. So that's another justification for why those additions have to come off. So now I think that's going to be added to the application.
Right, yeah, I was gonna mention that, when I toured White Cliffs, the mold is horrible in there. Just the smell of it it's really sad. But it's just the original building is gorgeous on the inside.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping
Going there when
that-
there's a restaurant back in the,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been there for various dinners and lunches.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Way back when. Okay, anything else on CPC?
nope, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, Millie?
So we've gone to having fewer meetings at MPIC, and the last one I think I gave an update was they talked about the dams. There really wasn't any discussion about the dams on our last meeting. What we had was Lori Connors presented a little bit more on economic development information for options for the town. But also she kind of went over a phase 1 downtown streetscape project. Has anybody been able to look at that online? It's kind of a nice summary of the chat that she's proposing. I mean that on the Blake Street area. She said that they had received 4 bids and they did go with one company to progress further into that design and development. Whether or not we are able to complete it and get the funding for it, that's another matter. We did get an update also from Jen. She kind of gave us Jen Tolman, she gave us a rundown on the cultural committee and what they're doing for beautification and activities in town. And then really it was a pretty short meeting, basically talking about how to fill in and get people to get different departments to be a little more involved in meeting their goals on the matrix. So we're trying to take it off of our shoulders as a committee and put it onto the different, conservation or historic or things like that, so that we're not really we're not implementing things. We're just making other, committees and boards and departments a little bit more involved.
Millie, was there any, at the select board meeting, they were talking about benches?
Yeah,
and
that's,
tables?
sorry. That was part of I believe that was a part of the streetscape, but I'm not sure. I can't remember what that fell under. But yeah, they were talking about either putting benches either in front of the town hall. Are those the ones you're talking about? Because we also
The
talked
one,
about
I
picnic
think they were talking
tables
about
at Stone
for
Common.
West Main.
Yeah,
talking
for
about
West
for
Main.
West Main.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, I'm calling
Okay.
it town hall. But yeah,
And then the other thing was, is the tree planting downtown part of your committee?
I'm not aware that specifically it is. Are you talking about, more trees in the downtown area or?
Yes, there was a project that Lori was talking about, on tree planting downtown. I was just,
That's not specifically part of MPIC. It might be part of the development, streetscape. I think that was streetscape.
right. I think that might have been ARPA funded, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Because the reason I bring it up is, again, I have to talk about Brigham Street and the possibility of maybe leftover trees being put there if there's no room for them downtown. I will cover that next. Okay, anything else on MPIC?
No, we have our next meeting. So we skipped last month. So we have our next meeting tomorrow night.
Okay, the next is the Northborough Revolution 250 committee, and we actually put in for an ARPA grant for $9,000 to cover some of the expenses that we did not get with the MOTT Revolution 250 grant that we submitted, and it was approved at the select board meeting. So it is a Revolution 250 committee award, but the money is actually going to flow through the Historic District Commission. So what I need to do is set up an account with the accounting department, just to keep everything separate from our budget. And then the money this will allow us to make expenditures against the $9,000 and have it paid for by the town accounting department.
That's great.
So that's good news. And as Leslie mentioned, we did submit a CPA request for the Revolutionary War Monument. Trying to think if there's anything else.
Yeah, so Bob, if you're going to come to the December 5th meeting, I would just say come prepared to
Oh,
sort
yeah,
of weigh it against the Minuteman question.
right. Yeah, the Minuteman was that was more of a kind of an award by Wesson. It has some historical significance to it, plus the Spielberg movie. But yes, that's
Not Weston, it was the Maney family.
oh, I'm sorry, you're right. You're right. I'm thinking of the fountain in front of Fort West
Yeah.
Main was Wesson.
Right.
Apologize. Okay, well, anyway, the committee's moving along. We have some really nice photographs of the witness houses, all the houses that were built before 1776 that exist in town. It was done by Michael Roman of the Garden Club. He's a good photographer. He actually has a drone that was able to elevate some of the shots so that they would be at the same angle as some of the historic house pictures. And that's going to be displayed at the library and possibly town hall and a few other places once that's done. And basically all the pictures are taken. He's just mounting everything so that you have the current house shot and the historic house.
Oh, nice. What kind of houses did you refer to them as? What?
They're called witness houses.
So what is
That's
that?
the term. They witnessed the Revolutionary War.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
I assume that's where the name came from, right?
Pretty cool.
So Brian Smith has a witness house.
Yes.
So Tom isn't here to discuss the fire station building committee that's going on right now. I did want to mention on the conservation committee that there was discussion about dam removal and the aqueduct. So that didn't, so it came up there, and the two dams that they're talking about, the one at the Aluminum City on Main Street, which is right by River Street. That is in bad shape, and the recommendation is that is going to come down. The other one is the dam by along Hudson Street, basically by the aqueduct, that dam. And from what I was able to gather from that is that this is an initiative by OARS, OARS, which is the Three River Association. And it's basically for aesthetic purposes and also for fish flow, to improve the fish flow through the Azabit. And both those dams are privately owned. So I think the owner has to buy into the removal. And from what I understand is it's a very expensive process, which is going to be funded by the state. And it's also a very time-consuming project. So I don't think we're looking at an immediate removal of those dams.
I'm sure there's some positive aspects of it, but I wonder if there's some unintended consequences that people must be aware of, that when you open up that flow, that you're having an impact on the ecosystem that relies on more stagnant water. I mean, if you just look by the aqueduct, it's all lily pad, it's all
Right.
Mhm.
grown
Well,
in,
one
and
of-
all of a sudden that's getting swept away. To wonder
Yeah,
what's
well,
going
if you're over by the aqueduct, what they showed a kind of an artist rendition of what it would look like after the dam is removed.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it does clean out all of the overgrowth that they have there. It makes it a more smoother run. I'm not a river expert, but
Just
it
wonder about all
looks
the
like
critters that are relying on it being the way it is now and what happens to them. I'm sure
Yeah.
that's all part of the big picture and understanding that it's a net
Yeah,
gain.
it is. And I think that the dam on Main Street is actually on Macris. So we have documentation of that dam with pictures, and I don't think really there's much that we could do one way or another on this. It's nice to be able to make sure that we have the documentation of what it looked like before it was removed.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's going to be several years before anything happens. And then the other item that they discussed was the trail across the Aqueduct Bridge. And apparently that has been approved by the Massachusetts Historical Commission and the MWRA, and there's some things going back and forth, but it looks like it basically requires permission by both the MWRA and the MHC. So that's all I have to report on that.
And then a big step of that will be removing the power lines.
Yes. Yeah,
That'd be nice.
I don't think from an aesthetic point of view, I don't think it's going to change the character of the bridge. But that's something we want to keep an eye on. Because there always was a hiking path across it. It just
Right.
not safe anymore.
They'd use the power lines as a zip line.
Good point.
One very exciting ride.
Yeah.
That's the end of that.
Yep.
Okay, I skipped over a few things. I'd like to go back to that now before we do new business. The first is the new alternate member, Rudy Volk, was approved by the select board last Monday. He's not able to join tonight because he still has to be waiting for his schedule to be sworn in, but that should happen soon, and he'll be joining us for our next meeting. So welcome, Rudy. And the next point that I skipped was the Brigham Street Burial Ground, CPA funded. So as I mentioned last time, there was about $7,000 left on the project. It's actually something on the order of 7,100 something. So if you remember, let me share my screen here. Okay, you can all see that, right? So if you remember, we were talking about possibly putting either a bench over here, an ornamental type bench that you would have in a cemetery with some sort of a marker on there, or posts maybe on the line. So I contacted Scott Charpentier, and he said we should forget about the bench because, as I suspected, I think Tom brought this up actually at the time,
Oh, the
was that
ADA.
if you have a bench, you have to have a base for the bench, and then you have to have a paved walkway that's wheelchair accessible. So that obviously is not going to happen for the $7,000. So Scott recommended 4 granite posts. And what he had mentioned was 4 granite posts at each corner here. So I went over to Brigham Street and I scouted it out a little bit, and I don't think that's a very good option. tell you why. If you notice from this sketch, at each corner here, there is a post existing.
Right.
Okay, the one back here is off the chart, but it's actually in someone's backyard. It's in the woods in the middle, and the one over here you can hardly find, but it's way back in the woods. But the two here are still there. So the four posts would be off to the left of that post in order to get the area marked for the existing graves. So this is the post right here. And this is the end of I assume, our property, although I believe that town property goes to the post. But if you go back to that would put the post here, which is probably in the guy's house. So that just doesn't seem to be an option. So then the other option would be to put it somewhere here by the post, and then off over here it's going to be lost in the woods. Let me show you.
Yeah, I mean, posts make sense if they're connected like with a chain, like we were talking about maybe having it enclosed in some area, some way, but this just, I think, to have random posts there, I agree, that doesn't make sense.
Well, here's the existing post. So the town property is within this, and then it goes off actually goes off not north-south, but a little bit off to the left. So the second post would be somewhere back there. So that just, to me, doesn't make sense. This is a view from the existing graves back near where the other post would be. And it really would be hidden from sight.
Well, since the left side of the property is bounded by the road, and since the right side of the property, there are no burials at all, and we're thinking of maybe having it available for some other kind of use, does it make sense to put the posts along to bisect the property into the burial side?
Well, that was exactly, that was going to be my suggestion.
Okay.
So this
All right.
is basically, I measured the best I could, and it looks like this post is the one that runs north, and if it runs north and south, all the graves are to the left of that. So it's roughly somewhere around here. So what I was going to suggest is that we put the four posts here, maybe one here, and then two in the middle. They're not going to be connected by a chain. That's just, but there'd be like four posts. And Scott said that one of the posts, possibly this one, could have a marker on it, which would identify, saying something. I'd have to come up with the wording, but it would be to the left of this post or to the west of this post are the graves of whatever there are 50 known graves and several other that are probable graves but unknown. So you would now have, if you go back to this view, so you now have a line of posts right around here. And then to the right would be where we would plant trees. Now, the posts, I believe, are $900 a piece. So we could get, we can get four posts in there, as Scott suggested, and the rest would be trees. I also mentioned about the tree planting that the Girl Scouts had a program to plant trees. And Scott didn't think that was a good idea. He thinks that it really has to go through DPW. They do it a certain way with professionally planted trees. So that's what we would go with, but we would have enough money to have a few trees put in. So are there any other suggestions? I mean, that would be what I would do.
I guess I'd like to look at I know the original rationale for four posts was because of four corners, but now if we're talking about a straight line, I'd like to kind of look at the length and see how many posts make sense. If maybe we would need one more or something like that, and why could it not be chained? Just because of expense, or?
I think expense. I could ask, but that's a long a long distance.
Right, but it could be a future project too. Like if we put the post in, we could have it as a target maybe to connect them. I would at least want to think about whether in the future we might want to, and if we did, then we need to make sure that the distance is amenable to that. Just a thought.
Or conversely, if it was too expensive, but if we priced the 4 posts closer together with a chain, then it would be somewhere in the middle here. See, even now, if you go over there, it's very difficult to figure out exactly where this point is. I was able to figure out where this line is based on just marching it off.
I like the idea actually of having it be that way you have a break in the, because you don't want to chain the whole thing in so people can't walk. So I kind of like what you're saying, which is you start your post back a certain distance and then maybe chain a series of, so you have sort of a visual barrier without it being a complete.
So
Mhm.
you'd have like a chained area here
Yeah,
as opposed to 4 posts spread out along this whole. See here, I just don't even know where this is.
Yeah,
It's got a
no.
clear, it talks about a cleared area. When I go through there, I can't figure out where that is.
Yeah.
I'm, trying, I was looking at the way the road goes through and where these are, but it's very difficult. I guess I could probably measure from here to here.
Would say maybe have them go back as far as where that cleared area, the intersection of the cleared area and the vertical, the green box, because that's
Right.
kind of past where the visible, really visible, prominent ones are, with which have the, the circle or the ellipse around it.
Yeah, I don't know where the cleared area is. I can't identify it.
Well, it
says
looks like, but I'm saying, if you go back just past, so if you look, that's kind of visually past where the really visible graves are, the prominent graves that have the oval around it. Maybe we go a little bit past that.
Right. You can see there's some graves up here.
Right.
Make sure that that was why I was thinking if we had a post over here, at least we would identify that everything to the left of the post is potential graves.
You're right. If we can't even see if the post is buried, I mean, we've been in those woods and we had a hard
Well,
time.
here, I believe that this is not wooded.
Okay. So
I
it's the open part.
believe that is going to be somewhere like right around here.
I mean, I think we should do a site visit.
Right.
We've
Yeah,
got
I
a
think
great,
that
great
makes
idea
sense.
here. I think we should go out with a tape, and really visually just kind of scope it out before
Walk
we
it
make a
off.
decision. But I
Yeah.
think we have a great plan. I like the idea. I don't know what other people think, but
Okay. Do you want to set something up or how do you want to? I'm willing to go anytime, but
yeah, it's a little tricky with Thanksgiving coming up, but
well, we could wait. We could wait till after Thanksgiving. Let me run it by Scott again and just give him some of these options.
okay, that'd be great. Yeah,
Maybe I can even get him to go there. Okay.
great. Thank you. No, I like that idea. I think that's a good.
Okay. Any other thoughts about that?
Well, the only other thing I had, and I think I mentioned this to you, is when you get there, the chain is weird because there's no obvious way to get in, like from the parking area. And I think it's
Yeah.
worth at least thinking about that if we're doing changes. You go into the parking area and you're surrounded by chain. There's no break in the chain. You have to go down to the left and in, and it's just kind of awkward. So I wonder if we should make a little adjustment at some point to the entrance. It seems like you should be able to park your car and enter.
Right. You have to kind of walk to the left here.
Well, you have to look for it. Like it's not even obvious where you pull up and say, wait, this whole thing's chained in. How am I supposed to go? And yet you have to kind of walk around. Maybe something I think we should take a look at when we're out there anyway. I might be crazy. Maybe I'm making a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be, but it was
Well,
something that struck me when I got there.
Okay. Good. I will mention it to Scott and then we'll try to set something up for a visit.
And I had talked to Ally about some possible municipal uses, and she said she talked to her husband, who's actually in the highway department. She talked to Scott, and they really couldn't come up with any suggestions.
You know, it's pretty land. We'll get a few trees in there and a few posts. I think it'll be a good end to the project.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry for mix up on the agenda. So I think I covered everything now. So
I did see on the agenda that you had something about the certified local government.
yes, that's coming up. That's new
Okay,
business.
okay.
I
I
just
don't want to
skipped.
get skipped over.
No. In fact, that's a good segue into new business and certified local government.
Ah, here we go. Okay. So, one of the things that I had looked into, and I apologize for missing last month's meeting. The third week of the month fell exactly on that Wednesday, and I wasn't expecting, it was like 1 week earlier than I thought it was, because the first of the month was on a Wednesday. So I was off by a week. So that is my fault. But I did want to say that I kind of looked into some of the benefits of becoming a certified local government. I did reach out to Jen Doherty from the state to basically see how that process goes and what they're looking for. And she got back to me and she said, really what they're looking for is that you have a committee in town, that the makeup of the committee is something that they're interested in. And they're looking for committees that have working professionals in historic preservation. Don't necessarily have to have an advanced degree, but they want to see people that are part of the industry of historic preservation. So, she also mentioned they like to see architects, historians, landscape architects, architectural historians, contractors, lawyers, and folks with backgrounds in historic preservation. Not everybody on the committee has to have that, but I didn't really know what some of the backgrounds were of this particular committee. So I thought it would be helpful if I could maybe get some of that information and supply that to Jen. And she said, that's the first step is to becoming a certified local government, is really, evaluating the makeup of the committee that you want to be in charge of the historic district. So, I thought that was the first place that I should start, is really kind of seeing what we can get for a breakdown of people's backgrounds and maybe put in something to her to say, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is, what our backgrounds and professional interests are. She
I'll
said,
go first
okay.
because I have nothing.
Oh, come on. Wait.
Got nothing to offer.
I mean, I can
Next.
either that, or if people just want to send it to me, that's an option too.
Well, we have an architect.
Yep, we do.
With experience in historical preservation as well.
Oh, he's a BOGO, huh?
Mhm.
Right. I mean, he has a lot of knowledge. I don't know what direct
Yeah.
project, but he certainly has a lot of knowledge about it.
Yeah.
What about people outside the commission, like the Historical Society?
I think the commission needs to be made up of these people. So, I mean, there could be another commission that basically is composed of that. I wouldn't know how to go about that part, creating a commission just for the certified local government application.
Ryan
But
I
Smith,
apologize if I
you're a
missed this before,
historian,
but
right?
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Ryan Smith, you're a historian.
Yeah, but a failing one.
anybody have a background in teaching, education, anything like that? Engineering, design, anything?
Engineering.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got software engineering. That's not going to help much, but
How about export control, compliance, and government contracting?
That'll do it.
That would probably be helpful. Yeah.
Not export control, maybe government contracting.
Government contracting, yeah.
Okay, though, there you go.
But if people could maybe just write something to
Yeah,
me,
we'll send you something to try to come up with some. I don't think
buff
they're
it
gonna
up
look,
a bit,
I don't think they're going to look at that very carefully, but yeah.
But they're also looking for people who are involved in the town. So that does count as part of what
Right.
we're bringing forth.
so what is certified local government? I'm sorry, I apologize if I missed this. What is this specific to historic, or is this a general term, or what exactly is this?
Well, it's an interesting thing because I think I was looking at it based on the some of the master plan goals, and it helps. Basically, it's made up of members of the community that have a goal of historic preservation. It allows the community to access funds from the state, because it basically says you're more than just a committee, and you're more than a bunch of people who have an interest, because you're looking to apply laws, you're looking to focus on preservation, and the state and national parks get funding from the government, from the federal government, and they have to use 10% of their funding on certified local government towns.
Yeah, I'm looking it up, and so yeah, it's part of the National Park Service.
Yep.
Okay.
But
So it's just an
the state,
interesting way, I think, to really maybe even hopefully get some funding, but also I think have specific goals that they are looking to achieve in these towns.
the funding actually is called the SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office of the state. And they have earmarked, as you mentioned, 10% of their funding has to go to a certified local government.
Yeah.
And the grant I was involved in for Revolution 250, the state grant, I mean, they talked about even for that, there was a set aside of a certain amount has to go to the certified local government. So there is an advantage there. But beyond that, I think it's a prestige issue too. There are certain, I think there's only, I don't have the number in front of me, so 20, 25 towns currently.
Yeah,
you
so basically, yeah, that's about that in Massachusetts. And I guess that was maybe my next step after talking to Jen and submitting this, is maybe going to talk to some of the towns that already have that and see how I think Westboro was a pretty recent. No, not Westboro.
No, I don't, Marlboro,
I see
maybe?
that it's part of the National Park Service. I am concerned that it might possibly be in jeopardy with our next administration.
Oh,
Well,
Manchester, I'm trying to think, Nantucket, Sudbury, Worcester has been one for a while. But yeah, there's about probably about 25, 30 towns. And hopefully if we can maybe work towards that option, we can get more access to funding. But also technical assistant training programs. They have educational components, which I think could be beneficial too.
you raised an interesting issue about the resume of people on the commission.
Mhm.
And I wasn't aware of that, but I did hear that one of the things is that if your town has a historic district, that's obviously very important. So we do.
Mhm.
And if you have, and obviously having a commission, both the historical commission and historic district commission. So those are, and basically showing that you're knowledgeable about preservation.
Right. Yeah.
I think
So
I think
that's
we can make a good argument about that.
yeah.
So it's also opens you up for grant potential too. So that's a big.
Right. That's what I was kind
And
of.
I think it fits in very well with our goals and objectives under the preservation plan. I think it would be a nice feather in our cap.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
And also ties in with the master plan, because they encompass so many of the pieces that this does encompass as well. So if there's an added level of guidance or assistance or anything that we can use, I'd certainly like to continue to look into it.
And also, by the way, Rudy Volk, I think, would have a pretty interesting background.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is let's have everyone send Millie the
A
appropriate
spiel.
part of your resume that might give us some points for
Mhm.
this application.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Look, I'm looking at the
Well,
list. I don't see any except for Worcester. I'm not seeing. Oh, Grafton's on it. I'm just looking for close by towns.
I think, yeah, obviously Lexington, Concord, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lexington, I
There's-
got the whole list right here.
Concord is not on there.
It is not.
I can just run through them quickly if you want to hear. You want to hear it quickly?
Sudbury,
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
So Bedford, Beverly, Boston, Brookline, Danvers, Dedham, Easton, Fall River, Falmouth, Framingham, Gloucester, Grafton, Hingham, Holyoke, Lexington, Lowell, Manchester by the Sea, Marblehead, Medfield, Medford, Methuen, Nantucket, New Bedford, Newton, Plymouth, Quincy, Salem, Somerville, Sudbury, and Worcester. So Worcester and Grafton are the only ones that are in central
Close.
Mass.
close by. And, well, Sudbury. Well, no, it's not, that's not central, is it?
No,
Really? No.
Well, I assume there's obviously no cost involved in this, and there's no obligation once you're a member. I mean, whether you ask for funding or not, it's just nice to have, right?
Well, the other thing is it does help you write some of the grants as well. And it helps you if you wanted to put something on the historic on the national preservation, they are more than happy to assist in helping these committees work on that application and that process. It's huge.
looks fantastic.
Sounds
Yeah.
great.
I
There's
thought it was pretty
tribal
cool.
preservation, got all sorts of cool stuff in there. Tribal Historic Preservation Office program also.
Okay, so we will all get you something about our backgrounds, and Millie, I'd appreciate it if you could take the lead on this,
Yep,
as you've been, right?
absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on that? Okay, I have next on the agenda is 9 and 13 Church Street. There's nothing new at this point, so we'll just keep our eye out.
It's coming. Don't worry.
Okay. Now, Amanda.
Insider information, Millie?
Just only a little. Ah,
Okay, Amanda sent me some information on 453 Main Street,
Mhm.
and remember that was the old Sturbrook Farm
oh, yeah.
that was sold recently. So apparently it was what's the term? It was flipped, I guess, and now there's a new owner. Amanda, do you have any comments on that?
No, I'm just glad that it's not being torn down.
Right, and you had the name of the owner?
I did. Yeah, let me see.
Oh, it's I have it here. Michelle
Got it.
Christine Goodwin.
Yes.
Michelle Christine?
Christine Goodwin. The middle name is Christine. Last name is Goodwin.
Okay.
Goodwin.
Okay.
Brian, do you think maybe we could do a letter of
I can send something to you,
a
sure.
letter of welcome?
Yep.
And that is it is on Macris. Definitely historic. Okay, great. So just want to bring that up. Thank you. Next on the agenda was White Cliff's CPA. Well, I think we discussed that a little bit. We did submit a letter of support for the renovation, or it's actually an architectural renovation study. It's not the actual renovation for White Cliffs, and I think so. That's still pending. That was basically a revision of the proposal that they were submitted to the underutilized resources grant that they did not get. And I think from a email from Lori was something on the order of they were hoping to go for a phase 2 program under the underutilized properties. I'm not sure if I got that right, the name of the project. Yeah. But one of the drawbacks is that unless the unless the project involves affordable housing, I think it may not be eligible. So I think that's still being kicked around. One of the things is that when we went to the preservation meeting in Worcester, we met with someone who had handled the Worcester Memorial Auditorium renovation. It's a nonprofit group. So we gave Lori the contact name for that, and she was going to approach them. These are people that specialize in taking property from a town, not owning the property, but actually coming up with a renovation plan, and then it would still be owned by the town. So I think that's going to be looked at, but at this point, I have nothing more to report. Oh, the name of the company is Architectural Heritage Foundation.
Hmm.
And yeah, they do some very interesting work. Okay. I did mention that we toured 4 West Main Street and White Cliffs with the select board. Again, there's the properties that the town owns that they're trying to come to grips with as to what to do with. I did get a request recently about street naming. If you know, off of the Southwest Cutoff, the old Kimball Sand and Gravel, looks like there's going to be some houses put in there and there's a new street. So they actually came to us for the street naming, and they had the memo, that the old memo from what was 1956 or 1986. And they wanted to know, because the memo refers to various grids on the map. So I explained that is an old map. The grids have been redrawn, but in fact, the bylaws do not require that you pick a name from that grid. It just requires that the name have historic meaning and comes from the general list. So there are and I didn't want to give them too many limitations. There's only 4 or 5 names listed in that grid. But interestingly, there was a couple interesting names that would fit in with the 250th anniversary of the Revolution. One of the allowable names is Tea Party, and another is Revolution. So I thought that would be an interesting street name, and I did suggest that. But in any event, the developer will come back to us for final approval. And as long as the name is on the list of historical names, or if they have a good argument for the name that they pick as being historically or culturally significant to the area, then we could approve it. But that hasn't happened yet.
And where did the list come from? Who developed the list?
It's a very old memo from, I don't know, we have a copy of it. It's an interesting memo, but they had basically gone through the list of existing names that were already assigned, and these were the names of historical names that were not yet assigned. And they actually put it into a grid on the map of Northborough for various areas. So I don't think that's been followed very closely. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason in some of the new developments that are coming up. But at least now they're making sure that the select board understands that they don't approve a name until it goes through our commission. And at one of the recent select board meetings, there was discussion about some of the private ways that have been named. And these are not town-owned streets, and therefore they wouldn't fall under the bylaw. But there is a suggestion, and I know the select board is going to be asking town council to look into this, about revising the bylaw to include these private drives as well. Which I agree, I think it should be, because you just don't want any haphazard name put in. Even though the town, even though it's a private way, it's still on a town map. It's for, the reason they have to name the streets is for emergency vehicles to know where to go, as opposed to just like, for instance, the one that they put on Ridge Street, that new development on the peninsula in the lake. Again, that's a private way, but they have to name it in order to have the ambulance service
Mhm.
know where to go. So I think I would agree that that would be, even private ways should go through the commission to make sure that it has some historically significant name. And then other issues before the commission. So something did come up, and it has to do with 131 Brigham Street, which was built in 1792. It's the Hal Whitcomb Street. It's a very small street. Let me see if I can show it to you. That looks like that's going to go through a demolition request. And did I Oh, I guess I don't have it. Oh, here it is. Okay, can you see it? Here we go. Oh, sorry, wait. I apologize. Here we go. Okay, so there it is. 131 Brigham Street. So actually, Rudy brought this to my attention. He knows the owner, and I told him that before anything gets done, they have to go through the building department and request the demo. They do intend to demolish it, but it's going to have to go through our review process, and because of its age, I think we have to go through a determination whether it's a significant building and put a demolition delay on it. One of the issues is that Rudy was actually mentioning that he was considering having the house moved to his property.
Over, it says altered beyond recognition.
Hmm.
That doesn't bode well for significance
Preservation.
necessarily.
Right. No, it's in looking at it, I went to an interesting seminar this week about determining whether something
Oh.
is historically significant.
I was going to
That's
mention, I went to
really-
that. I went to that too, Bob.
Right. I saw your name there. So interestingly, just being on Macris doesn't automatically make something
Right.
something historically significant. This is obviously on Macris. So it has to be, and it has to be more than just age. So it is possible that we would have to have a demolition delay meeting and determine whether it is historically significant, even though it's more than 100 years old. But anyway, I just want to bring that up, that could be coming down the road. Okay. Any other business before the commission?
I have a random thought, and I know I should reference the preservation plan to see if these things are in there, but for some reason I was thinking about the Mastodon site the other day. Whenever I'm driving around town, I start thinking about historic markers. Is there a marker, or is there I don't even know exactly where the Mastodon site is. It's near one of the trails or on one of the trails. Is there a place where
I thought it was close to the
Shrewsbury, I thought
To
it
the
was
ski
Shrewsbury
area.
line. Yeah,
near the border of Shrewsbury.
yeah, so there's some trails back there, so I wonder if it's worth just maybe at a trailhead or something having some sort of marker. It wouldn't even necessarily have to be, if it would be, probably wouldn't make sense to make it the grass ones that we've been doing, because those might not fit in well with a trail, but just a thought that especially if someone's going on a trail and I don't know if there's any visual remain. Is there anything visual about it anymore?
I don't think, I know the preservation plan discusses it. but I don't know. And it might be we have a list on the preservation plan of potential new historic markers.
No, that's why I said I prefaced it by saying I know I should be referencing the preservation plan to see if this is already on there, but
So I believe that is there. There was another one that was a crash site of an airplane.
oh, right, right. And I was thinking
Right.
about the 4 schools too, or the 3 schools, the schoolhouses. But I know there's an issue with putting markers on private property as well, but the schoolhouses are pretty cool, and I wonder if those would warrant
Yep.
markers as well.
Well, maybe a good item for next meeting would be to maybe review the list and come up with our top priorities for new historical markers.
Yeah, and even the Church Street house, the 302 Church Street would probably be a good potential for marker too. Although I don't know if our goal is to have them sort of in pedestrian areas where people can see them better, or do we not put them on are there criteria for sort of locations in town?
I don't think there's, no,
Okay.
we have that Native American trail marker, which is
Oh,
off
that's
of
true.
Ridge. That's far away.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the oldest house in town. It's pretty significant, and
Yep.
so it's just, yeah, I'd have to look at the preservation plan to see if those are even on there. But those were my thoughts. That's it.
Okay.
It's interesting.
Any other items? Okay, the last item is the next meeting. So our next meeting is scheduled for December 18th. And I know with the holidays coming up, what I would like to do is keep that date and maybe abbreviate this our agenda items just to keep it open in case something comes up. And then if not, we could have a very short meeting for December 18th. Does
Yeah, I
that?
mean, that sounds fine to me. It's far enough, it's a whole week before the
Okay.
holiday,
Yeah, I
so
didn't know people's plans. So we'll keep it December 18th. I'll try to limit the agenda items to significant developments. And we'll keep it open in case we have to meet for another reason. So if that's okay with everyone, we'll keep it at December 18th.
That works for me.
Great. Okay. If there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
we lose Brian?
I'm sorry?
I think we lost Brian, but
We lost Brian, right?
yeah.
Okay,
Brian
well,
Smith, sorry. Yeah, so moved.
okay, second.
Second.
Second. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn. Brian Swanson,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
and I agree to adjourn. So thank you very much. We'll have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. You too.
And we'll see you in a few weeks.
That's great. Thank you, Owen.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.